we doing?
It's part of the DNA.
Is everybody feeling marginalized?
Yeah, I know.
I just want to know if I'm accomplishing my task. Is everybody feeling marginalized? Oh, okay, good. All right. So, anybody want to report some of their findings? What kind of marginalization were we able to uncover over here?
Ethnicity and gender.
Ethnicity and gender? Can we have a gender example? Okay. So that wouldn't be gender, that would be marital status, right?
We also have no female priests.
Okay. That's a gender discrimination.
And maybe that's not right.
Okay. So we've got, so you said you felt throughout your lifetime a lot of prejudice and marginalization because you were a single woman your entire life.
Right, and yes.
Okay. And you stayed with the church, but somebody else may have been chased away by that.
Possibly.
Okay. And then also in reference to gender, the idea that, for lack of a better term, there's a glass ceiling in reference to leadership in the Catholic Church, because women can't be ordained deacons or priests.
It's more of a red.
A red
Not a
ceiling?
glass. Red.
A red ceiling. Okay. Any marginalization over here?
Probably ethnic, and physical.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for your weight, ethnicity, you talked about, Irish, blacks.
So someone who physically doesn't look like everybody else could be marginalized. Someone who's overweight may be treated differently than someone who's thin. What's that? Appearance? Sure. Yes, sir.
You see, the question about marginalization is it, I see the marginalization as a reason. For instance, if I see the friends of my child are from the drugs, or bad way of going, and I tell him, stay away from them, don't go with them, This is marginalization. I'm teaching my child, but I have to, because I don't want my child to be seduced by the bad company.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, but what you're doing is you're teaching discernment, correct? You're not saying avoid that person because they're black or they're Italian or they're Irish. You're saying avoid that person because that person may lead you in the direction of doing things that could be destructive to your life, correct?
Yeah, but you see, some people, I have bad opinion about the drugs, but some people might think the drugs are good. They are using them because they are convinced that it is good to use the marijuana. Now it is already allowed in some states. So the opinion, you see, social justice is one phase of the certain culture.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is a religious group, you try to say something that this is supposed to be social justice and this is not supposed to be social justice. Don't we overpass our...
So you were talking about people who use drugs?
Well, this is one example.
Mm-hmm.
People do all those other bad things.
Sure.
For instance, some people laugh at me when I go to the church.
Mm-hmm.
I met the guy from the I had a colleague from India. When he learned I was Catholic, he said, Catholic, how can you believe in such things? That the Virgin has a child. You know, he almost looked at his disgust on me. So, was I supposed to, what kind of attitude I was supposed to have against him? You know? Because this is such kind of tremendous difference between my opinion about my religion and his opinion about the religion. So he thought he was scientific, and I was scientific idiot. He was ashamed of me that he was on the same level, and I belong to a religion which believes in something.
So you were being marginalized because of your faith.
That's right. I was being marginalized, but what is my attitude towards him? Should I be his friend and trying to, because he is kind of contempt for me.
So
He's from India?
Yeah, he was.
You shouldn't just bring him to Mass when Father Augustine said.
So the question you're asking is, if someone marginalizes you, how should you respond?
That's right.
So if he's being contemptuous and marginalizing you, how should you respond to him?
Because if I'm going to be excessively friendly, he was kind of, he will be more aggressive towards me.
Okay. Anybody got a comment about how should you respond to someone who marginalizes you?
You love him.
Yes, exactly. This is my faith.
You nod your head, you know,
Yeah.
you say, hammer him back, find something to say about it.
But also, and also what you believe in your faith, it's your faith.
That's
What
right.
you believe in, and you tell them, this is what I believe in, you may not believe in it, and maybe find a scripture to show them.
I was in, some years ago, I was in the pharmacy, and I was looking for the Catholic Church. And finally, after a long time, I found it in the very God's forsaken street. And I asked one Catholic lady there, why did you build your church in such kind of forsaken place? It's almost impossible to find it. Anywhere I go, I look up, I see the staple, and I see, well, this might be a church. So I go there, but he told me, we were not allowed to build a church in the main street. We had to go to the...
That's the cathedral in Portland. They marginalized, they wouldn't let them have their front door on Congress Street. So they made them do it the other way, and now look at it. Now it's in one of the most prominent places in the city. You can see it, you know, from the 295. But they wouldn't let them have the front door onto the main thoroughway in Portland. That's why it's built that way. But Farmington, they sold that to the Protestants, by the way. Okay. Yeah. The church moved up on campus, and it's really a beautiful church now. It's up on the University main campus of Farmington.
This gentleman raised the question, how do we respond to someone who marginalizes us, specifically about our faith? This gentleman here said that we love them and pray for them. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Scarlet and the Black. Scarlet and the Black is about Monsignor during World War II, who, I think it's Sean O'Flaherty, I'm not sure. I'm not good with Irish names, believe it or not. Italian names, I can remember them to the end of the day, but Irish names.
Kind of marginalized by the Irish, aren't you?
Yeah. So, Monsignor Sean O'Flaherty was a part of the underground that smuggled Jews out of Rome to keep them during World War II. And one of the primary offenders of gathering up the Jews and sending them off to the death camps was a Nazi colonel. And after World War II, Monsignor O'Flaherty visited him continually in prison. And that gentleman, that Nazi officer, eventually came to the Catholic faith. I can't remember where I saw this, but recently in the past week, I read another article about one of the Nazi officers who was in charge of Auschwitz, I believe. And Auschwitz was the worst death camp during World War II. And through the witness of there was a Jesuit priest who would sneak into Auschwitz to minister to people and then sneak out. And after war crime trials while he was incarcerated and on death row. This Nazi officer requested that Jesuit priest to come back and visit him. And through those visitations, he became a baptized Catholic. He was responsible probably for 200,000 at least deaths of Jewish folks. And as he accepted Christ, he also accepted his penalty for his sins, which was to be hung by the war trials. So, people that are marginalized, if we're marginalized for our faith, and we have perseverance, that can actually be a great witness and evangelism tool. Any other marginalizations out
Well, I was
there?
going to mention the one on the church with single people. Much of it is prayer, the prayers we use, and some of the stuff. Because I had, when I was at Sacred Heart in Portland, we had a lot of college kids. We had a Sunday night mass at 6, and a lot of single people came to that. That just happened to be the one they were more comfortable at because there were so many other single people. And they came, a couple of them came to me once and said, why do all the prayers, and all that we pray for, even in the prayer of the faithful, it's always about families. It's always about mothers and fathers and the children, which they said we don't, we want to pray for them, but nobody ever talks about the single person, so it's almost like we're not supposed to be that way. And once you're cognizant of that, especially when you're leading a liturgy, you can integrate it a lot more. The same is true, of course, with the gender thing. And a lot of the prayers were not gender neutral. It was always that inclusion of man rather than people in so many of the prayers. And so we were all shown how to adjust that. We did a lot of adjusting in the beginning. The new translation came out, about 10 years ago. And some of those adjustments were made there for us. But we were all taught in seminary, change that, from man to all people, change that to us. Even some of the hymns, you might notice, you're now given some options to sing, rather than when it says brothers, we come together as brothers, what's that one that we always sing? And there's a big exception in it.
Let there be peace on earth.
Yeah. Those are kinds of things that probably weren't recognized as marginalized, but we were without even suspecting, because it's a good thing. It's a positive thing to pray. And Scripture is a good thing, but the translation of the time that it first came out was appropriate. Most people still kind of accept mankind, but it gives the wrong impression. It does make some feel marginalized. You can't explain it every time. We were marginalized as kids as Catholics, my town. But I'm not sure we didn't marginalize the others either. We had a park we had to go through to get to St. John's School in Bangor. And in the wintertime, Abraham Lincoln School was over here with, all the rest of the kids' public school. And we had to cross through that park, a lot of us, to get to St. John's, and the snow was abundant. And so we called them publics, because they were public school. And because they called us the Catholics, and the snow fights were unbelievable. And they figured out, as we made our way to the school, that we're supposed to look a little nicer than, the kids had to, so when we came in just clobbered with soaked and snow, the nuns were kind of concerned. So one day they found out that we can't pick up snow at recess. When we had recess, we weren't supposed to do any of that. So the publics would come around to a fenced area, and they plot, and they just kill us during recess. And we weren't allowed to pick up snow. And some of the sisters are walking around, and we had one sister, very short, and ironically her name was Sister Martina. And all of a sudden she was there when we got clobbered. And she looked at all of us, and she bent over, picked up snow, and she threw the first one back. And we all cheered. And we all started throwing snow back at her. And we never had the problem again. I think she had to do detention, but we didn't. But I do remember that. It was kind of funny, but it was it was fascinating as a kid, you know, we'd go, oh man, we gotta go through Chapin Park. Yeah. So I felt like Northern Ireland, really.
Okay, gang, we've got 5 minutes. Yep, question, sure.
In this day of political division, you know, people are marginalized by what they stand for. And you have families that are divided, communities that are divided. So what would you say to, how would you treat those people that may not think politically like you? We're so volatile right now, stability is at a low end.
To give you a perfect example of that is Ellen DeGeneres, a lesbian,
Yeah.
very vocal and open about it. And George W. Bush,
Right,
heterosexual,
right,
Christian,
right,
conservative Republican,
right,
are friends.
right.
And when someone saw the two of them sitting next to each other at a World Series game, it went